Welcome back to the new, and dare I say improved, version of Elizabeth Seer's podcast, where I fill you in on the energy we're working with as we journey through the year with tarot and astrology. You'll also hear more about my intuitive and spiritual work, and I might be incorporating some of my intuitive and psychic friends as we go forward. As always, I try to keep each episode short and sweet so you don't have to put too much effort into it. So sit back, enjoy, and let me do the heavy lifting as we begin our journey again with Mercury retrograde and entering the sign of Virgo. Yep, you heard correctly. I begin again with Mercury in retrograde. You might ask the great question, why in the hell are you beginning a podcast as Mercury goes retrograde? The easy answer is that I'm not really beginning something new with this podcast. All I'm doing is revisiting and revising. Luckily, Mercury in retrograde is the best time to that's R-E. It's perfect for reviewing, rephrasing, renewing, reincarnating, reinvestigating, reconstructing, rehabilitating, basically doing all that stuff with something you've already done before. Had I never done a podcast before, I definitely would not be beginning it now. Let's talk about Mercury retrograde. This time, it's occurring August 23rd to September 14th, 2023. You should always be aware of the really strong shadow period in the week or so before and after those dates. Now, the term retrograde comes from the Latin word retrogradus, which translates to backward step. Retrograde is when a planet appears to go backward in its orbit as viewed from our perspective here on Earth. Every planet in our solar system travels in the same direction on its journey around the sun, and none of them ever pause and turn back in the opposite direction. Yet, all of them appear to do this from time to time. Other planets in our solar system all orbit the sun at varying speeds. The outer planets, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, take longer to orbit the sun than the Earth does because their orbits are larger. For this reason, the Earth will often lap these planets in its journey around the sun. When the Earth overtakes one of these outer planets, that planet appears to travel backward, as compared to the stars, which are fixed from our vantage point. Picture this. Two cars are on the highway going in the same direction in different lanes. If one car is driving faster than the other, the slower car will appear to go backward from the perspective of someone in the faster car, even though the slower car is still going pretty fast in the same direction. Now, for the inner planets, Mercury and Venus, the mechanism that causes them to turn retrograde is the same, but in reverse. Mercury and Venus appear to go retrograde when they lap the Earth. So that's the astronomical or physical understanding of retrograde. The astrological version of Mercury retrograde tells us how the energy of the retrograde affects us here on Earth. In astrology, Mercury rules travel, communications, and technology. Therefore, during the retrograde period of Mercury, you could have issues of communication breakdowns, travel problems, or technical difficulties. During that Mercury retrograde, you don't want to buy any big-ticket items or technology, and you don't want to plan new travel. You also don't want to sign any contracts or start anything new, like a job or a podcast, if you can help it. If you already have travel plans in place, you just need to be prepared to be patient should anything go awry. But like I said, if you have had projects on the back burner, Mercury retrograde is a great time to dust them off and revisit. I really, honestly, used to fear I probably dreaded Mercury retrograde. However, I've learned to embrace those periods of retrograde and learn from them. So I hope you can do the same. Oh, and just a quick note before we move on, Mercury retrograde occurs about every 3 months. Therefore, the next Mercury retrograde after this will be later this year, beginning December 13th through January 1st. Welcome to Virgo. I'll get into the Major Arcana Tarot card, the Hermit, which covers all of Virgo on the next episode. Right now, I really want to discuss the King of Coins, or Pentacles. This king covers the period at the end of Leo through the first two decans, or 2/3, of Virgo. So it would be approximately August 12th through September 11th. Make sure to always give a day or so either way with dates on the astrological wheel. Also, I'd like to note that I do use the binary terms of he, him when discussing kings and she, her when discussing queens. I use they, them when discussing knights and or pages in the tarot. This doesn't mean that kings are always male and queens are always female. That just wouldn't make really any sense because anyone of any binary or non-binary gender can be born on any day of the year. Now, as a person, this King of Coins can be enterprising, reliable, supporting, steady, patient, generous, clever, and competent. His dark side can make him dull, materialistic, cowardly, jealous, grasping, ignorant, stubborn, and somewhat tedious. He can be competent in organized work such as math or technically inclined, or working toward that in some capacity. He's friendly and affectionate, and he may work hard for a good position in industry. He's solid and steady and can be a helpful craftsman or worker. He can master anything requiring attention to detail as long as he remains interested. This is a pretty gifted, although humble individual, and he likely will not enter into a battle unless he knows he has quite a few people on his side. This king may come across as ignorant because his earthly stubbornness refuses to give way to enlightened consciousness. But given enough information, he can eventually come around to reason. He's committed and intent on building something, growing it, and really being able to enjoy the fruits of his labor and effort. Now, as a call to action during this time, August 12th to September 11th, you should feel confident in material and physical success, using your business acumen to increase opportunities to gain in the material and or physical worlds. I'm also not just talking about money, I'm talking about your health, your physical well-being as well. Be like the King of Coins by harnessing and directing your physical resources properly. Commit your intent towards physical gain. However, you must be calm and patient with the process. Don't forget that same patience when your loved ones are acting out, and make sure to follow through on your commitments, not only to others, but those commitments and goals that you've made for yourself. In my case, I've had a goal to revisit this podcast, and here we are. It's famous birthday time. While you may not agree with who I add to my lists, it's just a sampling of some famous or infamous figures with birthdays during the time of the King of Coins, August 12th to September 11th. King George IV of the United Kingdom, Alfred Hitchcock, Mila Kunis, Napoleon Bonaparte, Ben Affleck, Menachem Begin, Robert De Niro, Austin Butler, Sean Penn, Mae West, Caitlin Olsen, Patrick Swayze, Andy Samberg, Edward Norton, Christian Slater, Kira Sedgwick, fashion icon and Nazi sympathizer Coco Chanel, Kim Cattrall, Serge Tankian, King of France and husband to Marie Antoinette, Louis XVI, Ava DuVernay, Blake Lively, Mother Teresa, Aaron Paul, Shania Twain, Jack Black, Charlie Parker, also known as Bird or Birdman, Cameron Diaz, Itzhak Perlman, Richard Gere, Whitey Bulger, Ione Skye, Beyonce Knowles, Werner Herzog, Rose McGowan, Michael Keaton, Roger Waters, Eric Wright, you might know him as Eazy-E, everyone's grandpa Bernie Sanders, Adam Sandler, Karl Lagerfeld, and the always incredible Taraji P. Henson. Next week, we'll dig into the Eight of Coins and the Hermit. The Eight of Coins works in the first decan, or first third, of the sign of Virgo, from August 23rd through September 1st. And, as mentioned earlier, the Hermit covers the entire sign of Virgo. Now remember to revise, review, and revisit during this Mercury retrograde until September 14th. Actually, given that shadow side, let's make it until about the 20th or 21st of September. Also, if you're interested, I am a 5-star intuitive psychic reader. You may book through my website, elizabethseer.com. I also work with a group of wonderful women at Chicks with Spiritual Gifts. So if you're looking for a wonderful spiritual intuitive reading, you can book with me or one of the other chicks at chickswithspiritualgifts.com. Finally, I've created a really cool intuitive oracle called Lenormand Seer Oracle. It's available as a casting oracle or cards. I also have a casting tarot set coming soon. All of that can be viewed through my social media and or my website. You've been listening to Elizabeth Seer, and as always, I'm grateful for this time with you.